Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of the Idaho House Republicans podcast, where you get to learn a lot more about the legislators that you sent to the State House. And today we're going to be speaking with Representative Brent Crane. And Brent is representing Legislative District 13. He's in Seat A. He's in his 10th term. He is the co-owner of Crane Alarm Service. He's a great basketball coach. He loves the game, and he's a lifelong resident of Canyon County. And he's a Nampa Christian alum, right? And you got a BA in political science with an emphasis in public administration from BSU.
Yep, go Broncos.
So you're an Idaho guy.
I'm an Idaho
You're
guy
an
through
Idaho
and through.
guy.
Yep.
And most importantly, you are married to a wonderful woman named Rashenda, and you have two amazing children.
I married up. Absolutely.
you
And
did.
got phenomenal kids.
You did. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Great to be here.
We always like to start with telling people a little bit about your district and generally what those constituents want from you. What do they expect?
Yeah, certainly. So I'm on the eastern half of Nampa. If you think of 12th Avenue as my western boundary, I go east over to McDermott, and I go south around Deer Flat, and then up into northern Nampa over just a little bit across I-84. These are great people. I've had the privilege to represent them for 20 years now. The district has obviously shrunk. We've gone through 2 reapportionments since I've been there. So I used to represent all of Nampa. Now it's just the eastern half of Nampa. But phenomenal people, just good, hardworking, God-fearing people. They want their taxes low. They want good Idaho values. They believe in traditional marriage. They're pro-life, strong supporters of the Second Amendment. I couldn't ask for a better group of people to represent because my values align with their values.
Praise God. Now, even though you've shrunk kind of in the amount of area you cover, you're representing more people because the state of Idaho is growing.
Yeah, I want to say it was somewhere around 30,000 when I started. And now it's 44,000.
Amazing.
But the way it worked with reapportionment, at one point I had 80,000 people in my district.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So let's talk a little bit about the committees that you're on. So tell people which committees you represent here in the House.
So I'm on the State Affairs Committee. I chair the State Affairs Committee in the House, and I'm also on the House Business Committee. I'm the ranking member on House Business. And then I also serve as chairman of the House Ethics and Policy Committee.
Now, when people hear the word ranking member, what does ranking member mean?
It's the member that has the most seniority on that committee. So yes, it's usually the longest serving member on that particular committee. I've been on state affairs and I've been on business since I started 20 years ago.
So tell people, you're the chair of the State Affairs Committee. What types of issues does the State Affairs Committee deal with?
We deal with all the highly controversial issues or tough issues. They're always emotional. They're contentious. And so what I try to do, I've seen predecessors before, almost it would get into a circus, a sideshow. And that really bothered me because I felt like it totally denigrated the process. And so what I've tried to do as chairman is to make sure it's just about the facts, ma'am. Give us the facts of the bill. Let's talk about the facts of the bill. We have rules for the committee. It operates very efficiently, very effective. You hear people all the time saying it is the best committee in the entire body.
And from experience, having sat in a lot of them, you are a wonderful chairman. And so if you want to learn how to run a meeting, just go watch his, they're open to the public. So go watch Brendan in action. You're really good at what you do.
Thank you. And I love it. Got a great committee too. Got some new members this year. I got 2 new minority party members and I've got a new majority party member. It's a fantastic committee. These guys go in every single day and work their tails off. I can tell you that we don't always agree, and that's fine. We don't have to agree, but we come out of there with respect, and we're all colleagues, and we have great respect for one another. And the work that they do, they're getting their money's worth for their legislators that are working in that committee.
Amen. Now, here's another one that you chair that we hope doesn't get called too often, and that is the Ethics and House Policy. So what happens in that committee, and what would it take for that to be actually called into session?
So it's the disciplinary committee. It's one that you hope never does go public. I think we've had one public hearing in the 20 years that I've been here, and it's unfortunate when you have to get to that stage. We hope and pray that committee never meets. Right. That's what you try to do. And so what I do as chairman of that committee is I look for what I would call yellow behavior that's it could be potentially, hey, you're kind of getting into a red zone there. And try to coach members up and just say, hey, have you thought about that? That's probably something that you shouldn't do. If that continues, that could end you up in front of the ethics committee. And try to prevent stuff before it ever happens. It's a committee that's created through rule in the House, is all internal. So if there's an ethics complaint against a member, another member of the House has to file that. We are voted on by our colleagues to serve on that committee. And then once you're elected to the committee, those members of that committee elect the chairman. So it's a high honor to be elected by your peers to that committee and then to be elected to the chairman of that committee. And we take our work very seriously. Obviously, it's work that most of the time individuals in the public sphere never hear anything about. Our rules about that committee, that all of our proceedings are to be done in private, but we are rewriting the rules to the ethics committee this year. Representative Vito Barbieri is been here, I think, 16 years, and he's like, hey, it's time to look at the ethics committee rules and let's rewrite those. So we're doing that. He and I are doing that right now.
He's a very well-respected member of the House. So let's talk a little bit about some of the legislation, some of the things that are coming before the State Affairs Committee and other topics that you have led. So very recently, there was a hearing about the Blaine Amendment.
Yeah, that was this morning.
And then talk about what that is and what do they want to do about the Blaine Amendment.
Blaine Amendment, probably, Vic, was the most fascinating debate that I've seen this session.
Wow.
I learned a lot that I had no idea about. Existence when Idaho became a statehood. There was a U.S. senator from, I believe it was Maine, with the last name of Blaine, and he was anti-Catholic, hated the Catholics. And so he tried to get the amendment through Congress, couldn't get it done. So what he put in place was any new state that came into being had to have automatically in their state constitution an amendment that says no state tax dollars can be used for religious schools. It's been found unconstitutional. However, it's still in Idaho's constitution.
Interesting.
And so we talked about that today, about getting that stain removed from Idaho's constitution. You know, at one time we had an amendment, believe it or not, actually in 1890 went all the way to the Supreme Court that said the LDS, members of the LDS Church could not serve or hold office, could not vote, or hold office in the state of Idaho. And it was upheld by the United States.
That was in the Constitution.
It was in Idaho's Constitution.
Wow.
It was upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court. I had no idea until the hearing today that was a...
And that was overturned eventually.
Oh, yes, it was overturned, but it took 90 years.
Oh, so is this a resolution to remove it from the Constitution that would go then to the people if it goes through both the House and the Senate?
It would have to pass.
2/3,
It's
yes?
2/3 because it's a constitutional amendment, right? So it will be on the House floor next week. And then if it passes there, it would go to the Senate and then obviously be on the ballot for the people of Idaho to make the determination.
And that would be November of 2026?
It would be November of 2026.
Wow, so it would be immediate. Thank you for telling us about that.
Sure.
Now, this is a bill that you were involved in. It didn't come through the State Affairs Committee, but you're the one who kind of kickstarted it. And that is a bill. We had Representative Britt Raybould on last week, and we talked about this bill where she wanted to increase the penalties for commercial sex. And I know that you brought this bill in the late 19s, right?
2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
So talk about that bill, and it obviously got voted through your committee, and talk about that bill.
Sure. So there is a provision in Idaho law where if an individual is caught soliciting another individual, a prostitute or another individual for sex, they're paying for sex. If that happens, you basically get 2 strikes. And then on the 3rd strike, it's a felony. And in talking to those that are working in the human trafficking space, they will tell you, if you want to stop human trafficking, if you're serious about it, you will go after the buyer. You go after the John.
Right.
And so what I attempted to do...
Reduce demand.
Yeah, reduce demand.
Yeah.
What I attempted to do in 2018 was make it a felony on the first offense, and we could not get that bill out of here. I had a member of law enforcement that opposed the bill. Actually, 2 members of law enforcement. I went to my local police chief. He said, absolutely do the bill. You're dead on. I went to my local prosecutor. He said, yes, you should. But there was a couple of Boise police officers that were opposing that bill, still opposing that bill to this day.
Interesting.
Yeah, it makes you a little suspicious as to what's going on there. But anyways, Representative Braybould brought that same bill back in the 25 session, got it through the House, died in the Senate Judiciary Committee. A couple of senators said, we really feel like maybe an 18-year-old kid, he's at a party or whatever and decides to hire somebody for sex, and, should he be a felon? And so this year, the way she crafted the bill is it doesn't go into effect until you're 21. 18 to 21-year-olds, it treats them different. But once you're...
With the 2 strikes,
Correct.
Essentially.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. So anyways, it passed the House this week. I was thrilled to hear it pass the House. And I'm optimistic that the Senate Judiciary Committee will actually move it forward this year because she addressed the exact concerns. If they don't move it forward this year, then they're playing games. Because they told her last year that was the concern, so she addressed the concerns. If they don't vote for it this year, then these are individuals that are playing games and obviously want people to be able to buy another human for sex.
So the current bill is a misdemeanor the first time, felonies second time, and financial penalty in jail. Now it ramps that up. First time, you're talking about potential fine, minimum of 6 months in jail.
Yep.
Could be up to 10 years, I believe.
Yep.
So it's got a lot more teeth.
If we're serious about stopping human trafficking, we can pay all the lip service we want. But if we're serious about it, you're going to have to enact this type of legislation. And I applaud her for bringing it forward. I'll continue to stand behind it. These are individuals that don't want to be in the sex trade. You can go to any high school you want and interview the senior class of girls and say, how many of you want to be a prostitute when you grow up? Not one of them will raise their hand. They're
Right.
leveraged into it. It's the number 2 source of income for the cartel. Drugs is number 1. Prostitution is number 2.
Wow. Well, congratulations. It does show, though, Representative Crane, that some legislation takes time.
Yeah, it does.
But eventually, if the issue's good and it's well crafted and everything's worked out and negotiations happen and concessions are made, good bills come out of it.
Yes, they do.
Thank you for starting the whole thing. So let's talk about flags are a big issue.
Yeah.
Again, this year, House Bill 561, which is Ted Hill, Representative Ted Hill. How did we get here? This is the second year of the flag bill. Why do we need one this year?
So what happened with last year's bill is there was no penalty provision put into the bill. And so it goes into effect. And obviously, everybody's watching with bated breath on July 1st when it goes into effect to see what the Boise mayor is going to do. And the Boise mayor said, well, I'm not going to respect the law. I disagree with the law. And so I'm not going to obey it. And there's no penalty if I don't obey it. And I remember being concerned at that point because uh, that's how you create anarchy. If you feel like, hey, I'm not going to obey the law, well, then you're telling your citizens of your local city, whether you agree with it or not, then you can violate the law and you'll have anarchy. So what we've come in this year is Representative Hill's come back with a bill to say it's the same thing. Hey, here's the deal. You can fly a state flag. You can fly a city flag if you want. You can fly, I think, tribal flags, military flags. The intent behind the flag bill was we want flags flown that unite everybody.
Right.
That we don't want flags that just represent 3% of the population.
Common identity.
Right. It's all about building, we are Idaho. We're together. Let's
We're the
bring
United
people together.
States,
Right.
right.
Since she violated that, I knew obviously the legislature was going to have to react. And so there's a provision to put a penalty in place. I think it's a $2,000 fine per day.
Per flag, I
Yeah,
believe. Yeah.
yeah.
So let's talk about cosmetology. You were telling me before we went on that it's gotten quite a lot of social media impacts. Tell people this House Bill 547. What is this bill and why has it caused so much interest?
So Representative Ehlers brought a bill to lower the hours for being a cosmetologist from 1,600 down to 1,000 hours. On the surface, it seems very simple. Hey, this is a deregulation bill. We're going to make it easier for people to enter the marketplace. And in the hearing, as I began to try to understand what was happening and question one of the individuals that had presented in opposition to the bill, I was making the point, and I did not make it well, but I was trying to make the point that if this is so unsafe, then why is my 15-year-old daughter able to go down to Walmart, purchase this stuff, put it on her head, change her hairstyle, change her hair color? She can do her own nails. And that's the point I was trying to make. Is it really a safety issue? And that comment went viral. I think they told me it's like 3 million people have now seen it.
Really?
Yeah. What I didn't know and what I have learned subsequent to that was, one, this is an industry that is fighting for viability and credibility. And it made them feel like I was devaluing or diminishing that industry. And I told them, I said, I apologize for that. I am so sorry. Had no idea.
That's not your style.
No, and I will ask tough questions, but I did not know in my question asking that's what was happening. And that's what she was feeling at that moment. And so interestingly enough, I think that bill was heard on a Tuesday or Wednesday. On Friday, there was a mom that came down and she was here. Her daughter and her son was touring the Capitol. And she said, I was looking for you. I'm an esthetician and I want to talk to you about your comments and understand your perspective. And she's really the one that kind of opened the door to say, hey, I think that there's a way that we can make some changes to Idaho's cosmetology laws. And so would you be willing to kind of explore that? As a result, the gal that her and I had the exchange in committee, Kelsey Crawford's her name, local salon owner here in Meridian, she reached out to me on Monday and she's like, would you be willing to have a conversation with me? And I said, sure. And so we sat down and within the first 2 minutes, I knew this is someone that we can work together and we can get something done. She was able to show me how I had offended the industry, which obviously I apologize for and I felt bad, but also explain some of the concerns that the industry has, some of the challenges that the industry faces.
People that want to get into it.
Yeah, that want to get into it, but also from a Solano's perspective. Here's challenges we have. We're getting kids that are coming out that don't have the ability to do the job. We're paying 1,600 hours to try to get trained on. We talked about financial challenges for these individuals that come out of the school. So we got together with both groups. I think that was Tuesday, Wednesday. My days are running together this week, but put together a proposal that we think will possibly work that would get everybody happy and on the same page, kind of a compromise proposal. And we'll see Sports Clips was kind of the ones on the other side of this. Their business model's totally different, and so we made a proposal to them. We'll see if they accept it or not. And if not, then the bill will probably die. 547 will die. If they accept it, then we'll have everybody on the same page and we can move something forward. So it's been great. We did an interview at Channel 7 last night, and they were just ecstatic to see how two people that started out in an opposite manner could actually come together and start working together and get something meaningful done.
And the beautiful thing too is people have to be reminded, Representative Crane, that the individual can make a difference. An average citizen
Yeah.
can come forward and say, hey, I've got a great idea. So, for example, Russ Fulcher has often told the story that he was up north and someone talked about potentially removing taxes on overtime. And by God, it wound up in Trump's big, beautiful bill. So, yes, the average citizen can approach legislators, even their federal delegates, with a good idea, and it can become part of a law.
Approach them even when you disagree. It's one of the things I told Kelsey that I appreciate. I said, it took courage for you to call my office.
Of course.
She just lost in committee 13-2. I mean, the bill sailed out of committee.
Right.
But she picked up the phone and says, can we have a conversation? And she likes to say it this way: curious conversations and compromise you can remove great barriers.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what happened.
And you're proving that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Let's talk about another topic, and that is paid signatures. So we have a lot of initiatives that come through, and there's been some effort to try to tighten those up so that they're done more logically, more transparently for the people that would sign these petitions or being asked to participate in these signing of petitions. Talk about Bill 501 and what you would like to do with paid signature gatherers.
Well, what they do, this has become a little cottage industry, is to go around and let's get an initiative on the ballot. And we're going to pay high school kids or college kids to gather signatures for us. And what they typically do is they'll concentrate in high urban areas like Boise or Nampa, Meridian. It's not like it's a statewide law where all lawmakers are weighing in on it. It's a smaller portion of the state geographically where they're garnering these signatures. And so often it's funded with out-of-state money.
Right.
Just like we have to disclose who would be supporting our campaign, we feel like the same thing needs to happen to them. So they have to be identified who they are. And this would say who is paying for the initiative.
Okay.
So, you can say, hey, this is, a ballot initiative that's all about ice cream and unicorns, and find out that, some industry's paying to push, whatever their product is.
Out of state.
And often
Right.
it is out of state.
So the idea would be that it would give you transparency in terms of who's actually paying for that signature gather. And that's House Bill 501. Let's talk about House Bill 510. It's government ethics, government transparency for public employees. Talk about that.
That's Representative Manwaring's bill. One of the things that he has found in serving here is sometimes government employees are said, hey, we don't want you to interface with the legislature. Or if you do interface with the legislature, you've got to go through, a point of contact in the executive branch. And he said, hey, look, I feel like that, if I'm asking questions from somebody that's in the executive, government, that I should have, they should have the ability to talk with me and talk directly. And it's kind of putting some parameters around that and the ability to communicate with the legislature so that state agency employees can communicate with the legislature.
And what's the status of that? Is that being heard in your committee? Has it gone through your committee?
It's supposed to be heard in committee tomorrow, pending his votes in JFAC. So we met this morning. He's like, yes, I want to do it tomorrow, but we've got some important votes. So if I can't break away from those votes, we'll pick it up next week.
And JFAC is the Joint Finance and Appropriations Committee, which is the funding of our state. Kind of important.
It's very important.
Very important. One more topic until I kick it over to you to see if there's anything we missed that you'd like to chat about. But open meetings must provide an opportunity for public comment. That's House Bill 537. I think it's being brought by Chris Bruce.
It is. And I have not talked with Chris about the details. I've heard different alliterations of what it entails. One is that it just, in every public meeting, there would be a time set aside that is dedicated to public testimony. Others are saying, no, it goes broader than that. It allows for virtual remote testimony.
Correct. Yes.
And so there's some challenges with that. Again, you get people, if you're at a city council meeting, let's just, for a foil, let's use the city of Nampa. You're at a city of Nampa council meeting, and that they would have to do virtual testimony and someone from Sandpoint could weigh in on it. They're not residents of Sandpoint. They're residents of Nampa that should be taking up the mic time. I've got to look closer at that bill before we see if we're even going to move that bill. Oftentimes, someone will get an idea, and then as you talk to him and go, really, do you want, I think he lives in Cuna. Do you want people from McCall doing remote testimony and taking up the council's time with somebody that you don't represent at all, doesn't pay taxes in your city, doesn't live in your city, but yet they're going to tell you how to run your city.
Right.
And so it's different than state government. So we allow remote testimony here, and I was the first one to do that. And I'm proud of the fact that we allow remote testimony. But these are Idaho taxpayers in the state house.
Right.
So they have a right from anywhere within the state of Idaho to weigh in on an issue. So city council is a little bit differently. So I'll look at the bill closely and see if it's remote testimony from people outside the city boundaries. I probably wouldn't support it. If it's for people inside the city boundaries, possibly, because you might have somebody that has they can't make it, they don't have a vehicle or whatever.
They're
But
out of
again,
town, but they're
right.
still
But I
listening.
do think that it's okay to make an effort and go to your local city council meeting.
Right.
And I can tell you, it's far more effective when you're there in person.
Oh, for sure. But I mean, I think what that does prove is that a lot of legislation starts as a kernel of an idea,
Mhm.
and then over time it actually becomes law after it's
Well,
worked
and Vic,
through.
you have to think about it. So he lives in an urban area, right? But pick Santa, Idaho, for example. I mean, sweet Idaho, right? So small little towns in Idaho, do they even have the budget or the technical capacity to do this, right?
Right.
So
Fair point.
it's fine in Kuna or Meridian or Boise. Like, they could have the budget, they have the staff. I mean, I think in my
Mhm.
city, all their stuff is live streamed anyways.
Right.
But in these small towns, and so again, a lot of times people have an idea,
It's perspective.
right? But when it gets fleshed out, it's like, I'm not sure that that's going to work the way you thought it would work. So, people say, well, hey, you could just do Zoom. Well, how many people can you have on the Zoom call? And then does the city have a budget for a Zoom subscription? So
Right.
all those
Or
things
the
can be
technology.
challenges. The intent is good. And that is that we want a set aside time for citizens every single council meeting to be able to voice their concerns to city council. And I think
Exactly.
that that's healthy.
So is there anything we missed that you want that you'd like to chat about?
Man, we're in week 4. I don't think you missed anything. It started out really slow. I've
did.
never had a session where in the first week there was no bills to consider.
That's incredible.
It was absolutely
Even
bizarre.
after the second week, I think it was only 15 bills that
Yeah.
were introduced. But
So as I've told people, I said, it's been interesting. Obviously, we're in a budget shortfall time. And I said, it was kind of like sheep herding around. I said, people are just milling around like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? What are we going to do? And once you started picking a revenue number and JFAC started going on that process, and then things took
the
off.
dam broke.
Yeah, it did. And people have started moving legislation forward. It's going to be a good year. We're going to get a lot of stuff done. Idaho is we are a shining example on how to run a state. Truly, we are. 49 other states should look at Idaho and go, how do you guys run your process? How do you guys run your state? Because Idaho truly is the city on a hill that is an example of how to run a state government.
That's a yes and amen, brother.
Thank you.
Anyway, we're grateful that you joined us here on the Idaho House Republicans podcast, and we're so grateful that Brent Crane, who is Legislative District 13A, representative from that great part of Nampa, was able to join us. And as we always say when we end our show, God bless the great state of Idaho, and thank you to Representative Brent Crane.
Thank you.
From timber towns to wheat field roads, different roads, but the same old hope. We bow our heads and we stand up tall, answering the people when duty calls.